So let's talk about body mounting for a second. Uh, Off camera, what I've done is I just took a long body post. You can get these at most hobby shops, online, Amazon. And I just drilled a hole in the middle of the chassis. I did some measurements, drilled a hole in the middle of the chassis. And then this is where she'd originally had her body mounted, but unfortunately it lines up right about here. Yeah, there's actually, see, the dot is right where it lines up. That wasn't going to work. So I just went ahead and drilled a hole right here in the front of the body. Basically I lined it up. I moved it forward a little bit. We'll probably end up having to trim the wheel wells just a little out or something. Although I'm really thinking about putting some smaller tires on here. And like I said, this is for my daughter. She usually runs a bigger tire, but I think a smaller tire would look good. And it would prevent the rubbing that I've got here. For a smaller tire, I like drift car tires. They work great. Low rolling resistance. You know, they're hard, so they're not going to dig in. We'll have to, they are hex drives, so I'll have to put some hexes on here, wheel hexes. That's not a big deal. So for the rear body mounting, what I did, there's already this access hole here in the back of the chassis, back of the gearbox, and this is actually for bolting it to the chassis plate. So I just used that, and I drew this up on CAD real quick and printed one up. Printed it up out of PETG, just like the chassis is, and these are actually the body posts that are from her original chassis. Now what I'll do is I'll fish a nut on the back side here, and that'll hold it. You can do all sorts of different things. This is just one thing. The reason why I did it like this is so I can pivot it out of the way, and I still have access to the nut on the back side of the hitch plate. So just kind of give you an idea how it's mocked up, and there's some adjustment that's going to need to be done here. I know a lot of people like Velcro. I like to have a positive mount, meaning something that is not going to come off. That way, if I have, thing gets wild on the track or whatever, my body stays on no matter what. Alright, so here's the start of how it's going to look. Obviously, you can see here in the back, it's a little, that's close. So what I'll probably do, it might work, because as it speeds up, tires are going to shrink in. They're actually going to hit this front here a little bit. What I should have done was push it a little farther forward. If I was doing it again, I'd probably push it about here. But I didn't, so, it is what it is. I mean, I could, if I move the rear body mounts around a little bit, and that puts back farther, and that would actually put it farther forward. And then I would just either need to move my front body post forward, or drill another hole in the body. Not sure what I want to do. I almost like it in between there. So I might drill another hole up front here and move this post forward a little bit, and then make another one of these that is more like about here, instead of being offset so far, that it's actually got 0 offset. And I might actually just drill a hole in this one and just as a test, and see how the body mounts. Thing what I'm trying to show you here is there's no one way to do it. There are 100 ways to do this, and all of them are right, all of them are wrong. It just depends on who you ask. So let's I'll do some more work off camera, do some more engineering, see what I can come up with. All right. So we're working on steering. And let me see if I can turn this so you can see. What I've done here is, this is the linkage we installed in previous videos. Servos in. What I've done is I've run a 16 millimeter 3 by 16 millimeter bolt up from the bottom. What I have here is a Revo rod end, which is Traxxas 5347. Buy them in these big bulk packs, because you go through them when you're building stuff. This is a piece of 8/32 threaded rod. You can get it at any hardware store. Now what I do is I use this is Delrin tube you can get from McMaster-Carr, and you just drill it out and slide it over. Then you thread your Revo rod end on. Now these are used rod ends that I've got here, so they thread on nice and easy. You just have to measure from there to there to get your points. So we're just going to go ahead and slip it on, and we'll grab ourselves a 12 millimeter and go ahead and, now I'm not using I'm using the top, the inner bolt hole. I do recommend some threaded, Loctite or something on this. I'm not putting any on right now because I'm test fitting. What I'm doing is I just got to get this. You can do is actually bring it up a little bit, and then, oh well, I guess I can't right now because I haven't cut the corners off of with these big tires. I usually need to mount smaller tires to cut these corners off the electronics tray. Okay, and we'll just go ahead and start it by hand. This is where having these mounted Velcro is nice. Just kind of get in here any way I can. There we go. That just ran in for test. But that looks like it's going to work. Okay. Now back to the body mounting. I did go ahead and did a little tweaking on my body mounts. And if anybody needs, I can publish this on Thingiverse. It's just a little body mount I made. 3D printed. Fits in that hole again. It's got a little standoff so that it fits and snugs down. I'll put a nut on the back side before we're done. And then this will go on, just about like this. There we go. You can see I need to raise it up I need to adjust the body mounts a little bit, and the front needs to be adjusted, but set it something like that. So on to the next step, which I think the next thing is going to be putting a hitch plate on and then starting to add some weights. The next step is to add a hitch hook. Now this is one that I borrowed off of the truck that we're dismantling. These are available at basically any hardware store. Menards, Home Depot, Ace Hardware, wherever you have locally. They come with one nut on them. I like to use a Nylock nut. It's a 1024. I just buy a pack of 1024 stainless steel Nylock nuts. And pretty simple install here. We're going to go on to our hitch plate. And the hitch plates are usually a little bit tight when they print out. It's not a bad thing. I'd far rather have it tight than loose. So we're just going to screw it in. It doesn't matter up, down, wherever. We're not caring about dimensions at this point. Now take your nut. I use these long handle. Harbor Freight sells packs of different pliers. Really cheap. Go buy you a pack of these red handle ones. There's whole sorts of different styles in there. There's cutters. There's everything you can imagine in that pack, and it's quite handy for any hobbyist to have. I don't remember the price. I'm going to say they're under $30 for the whole pack. So this is probably the most frustrating part of this whole process is getting this nut on here. You can use a wrench, a box end wrench will work also. Okay, it's going to get a little tight, so I'm just going to use a second set of pliers. You could use a screwdriver or anything to give you a little bit of more grip in there. We're going to tighten it down, get it nice and tight, and then we're going to loosen it back up. Alright, so it's nice and tight. We're going to loosen it back up because we got to set the height. Now, there's a lot of different ways to set the height on this. There are way different tools. You could use a screwdriver, or it's not a screwdriver. You could use a ruler. You could use a hitch checker tool. For this, I'm just going to use a cheap pair of calipers because this is something that anybody can buy from, again, Harbor Freight is the best place for it. These are digital. We're just going to go ahead, turn it on, zero it, put it in inch. And for this purpose, this is a Pro Mod, so we want it to be at 4 inches. And we're going to keep it just shy of 4 inches, 3.97. Put it on. We're going to look and see, okay, well, that hitch needs to be way to the top. And most of these, it's going to need to be to the top. So we're just going to take and pry it, put a little pressure on it, and wiggle it back and forth till we get it right to the dang near all the way to the top. Now, you know, this kit was built so you could use it for all different classes. So this is probably the smallest tire you're going to use on it at a 4-inch hitch height. Okay, just like that. And we'll go ahead, I'll just go ahead and grab a wrench. I'm trying to remember what size it is. I believe it's 3/8. So we'll grab our 3/8 wrench so I can show you a different way to do it. And we're going to grab a hold of this side with pliers, and we're just going to go ahead and tighten it down with the open end of the wrench. You want to get it good and tight. Don't crush your chassis, but you want it so it ain't going to slip when the weight of that sled comes down on it. It feels pretty good to me. Okay. Now, since we're done with that, we can go ahead and mount our body mount. So I've got a bolt through it already. So I'm just going to grab a nut out of my bin over here. And this is going to be probably more frustrating than putting that hitch on. Again, I'm going to use these long pliers. And I'm going to just try to go like so. I'm going to use my electric screwdriver here because, well, if you've got it, use it. It's not working very well. You know what? I have an idea. This screw is just barely long enough. If we get ourselves a little bit longer of a screw, we'll grab one of these. I think these are 22s. I mean, there's nothing going to be right below it, really, so we'll go ahead and do that. And this one is biased this direction. Yeah, there we go. That's a little easier to see. Now I'm just going to find out what I do with that nut. Here it is. Here's a nut, anyway. You gotta just angle it just right. Like I said, this is one of the more frustrating parts you're trying to get it on there, you can't. And this is obviously an optional part of the build. This is just how I decided to do it. You know, everybody on the internet likes to watch people's pain and suffering. Well, this is pain and suffering, frustration. Well, I think we're going to use the power of editing to get this put on. And there we go. We're just going ahead and get it tightened up. I got to get a hold of the nut again. Oh, don't want that to happen. Okay, it's on, nice and tight. You still should be able to turn it just a little bit. Again, this is how I did the body mounting, not necessarily how you'll do the body mounting. Plenty of options out there. Everybody has their own ways of doing things. Snagged on the. Okay, just like that, it's starting to shape up. Still going to put some body clips in here, get that set, trim that up, or I'll probably just draw another under tray. But this way now, I think I'm going to probably raise this body up a little bit, because when you go with these 6400 motors in 3S, it really balloons these tires. So for a final little wrap up, let's the final piece in our puzzle is weight. So what I'm using here is lead. I have a bulk block of lead, and these are some weights that I poured years ago. These are steel weights that several people have for sale. Each weight weighs, a different amount depending on what you're going with. And then we need a way to hang our weights. So what we have here is a piece of 3/4 by 3/4 by 1/8 inch aluminum. This comes from, your hardware store. Ace Hardware, Menards, Home Depot. These are pieces of material, FR4 material, that I have spare when I cut chassis. I'll typically use up whatever spare material I have. So I have a bunch of these. So this is what I typically use. You can also get 3/4 inch flat plate steel or aluminum in 1/8 inch thick, and make ones that look just like this. So we're going to go ahead and use these. I've got some zip ties here. So I like to run a weight right at the back. Usually 1 pound to 2 pounds, depending on the chassis, depending on the class, depending on a lot of factors. I zip tie it on. Some nice black zip ties. Be careful about white zip ties. White zip ties don't have UV protection in them, so they will tend to degrade. Now, I've given you these little hex cutouts on the side of the chassis. It's for access, and so you can run a zip tie through it. So I didn't have a long enough zip tie, so we're going to use 2 of them doubled up. We'll come back and cut this off. In fact, we'll go ahead and do that now. Make sure you got that sucker on good and tight. You don't want it coming loose. If your block of lead, is poured rough enough, like this one is, one wrap around will probably be enough. I think I'm going to go ahead and put two wraps. That will take care of it nicely. Now, there's actually a slot down here that you could use. You could put some weight in here. There's a few different ways you could do it. I'm just covering the way I'm doing it right now. So I'm actually going to use this slot for my zip tie. Just run it through like this. Unfortunately, on the other side here, it kicks out into a gear, makes it a little bit difficult to get a hold of. Well, we're going to go ahead and those pliers I was talking about earlier. Tell you, Harbor Freight, a great little package of pliers. If Harbor Freight's listening, you know, sponsor me. Okay, we're gonna get these nice and tight. We'll go ahead and cut that off. Neat. Make it nice and neat. Okay, I think I need to cut one down here. I mean, the main thing is you don't want that weight coming off there, ever. You could tape it on. I've seen Velcro to hold them on. All sorts of different ways to do it. The important thing is just so that it ain't coming off. I want to make sure this is tight. Okay. Now, as you can see, I actually went through and modified my front so I can steer now. Still need to work on steering alignment. Okay. Now, these are designed to fit an 1/8 inch piece through, but they may be tight, as you can see. This is a bastard file. Okay. They didn't do anything wrong to me. It's just what it's called. We're just going to go ahead, put it in, and you can just file it. A little bit of filing. And you can get them to fit. Now also, whether you're using whatever you're using, make sure to chamfer your edges. Give them a little bit of a chamfer. Because any little bit of burr is going to cause you problems getting these in. Alright. See? A little bit of filing, a little bit of chamfer, and slide right in. Now, in this particular case, I can't tell you how many weights you're going to need. So, this is my daughter's. That's the pink weights. Used to be she liked pink. Now it's she liked pink and purple. Now it's teal. So we're just gonna go ahead. These weights are just these steel weights. Have gotten a little dinged up. We're just gonna do the same with the weights as we did with the weight bar. Clean them up. These actually got a burr when I was taking them off the weight bar. I had to pound them off the weight bar. And, yeah, you can see they got dinged up pretty good. Now I know the question is going to be, how many weights do I need? Well, I can't tell you. That's going to depend on a lot of factors. It's going to depend on which chassis, you know, if you go with an 1/8 inch or a 1/4 inch flat plate. It's going to depend on what motor you run, what tires and wheel combination you're running. There are so many factors into that. What size of battery you have. That's all going to dictate how much weight you run. I usually say as a baseline, if you're buying weights, buy more weights than you need. Buy 4 or 5 pounds of weights. I mean, if you're in this sport, you're going to use them. I mean, I don't do steel weights anymore, but I'll pour my own lead weights. So I never pay attention. All right, that's enough to give you an idea. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put these in the center of this first. And the reason for that is you need to set these centers, and you're pretty much going to be, the way ProMod works is you're going to run enough weight to keep the nose down until half track. At half track, you kind of want that nose coming up in the air, because that means you're transferring as much power as you can onto the rear axles, and as much weight as you can on the rear axle, because you want these things to move. The only way to get down the track is to have as much weight as possible on it. So again, we're going to be hanging weight there. We're going to be hanging weight here. These will be our movable weights. Just go ahead and show you. I take my ugly weights and I hang them first. And try to balance them out on how much weight you hang on either side, at least at first. Once you get pulling, you can vary that. All right, so that will wrap up the video. If you have any questions, put them in the comments, or hit me up over on RC Pullers Only, or come to a pull. There are pulls nationwide. Basically no matter what state you're in, there's probably a pull, or really even what country you're in, because RC pulling has gotten really big over in Europe. I don't know about England, but I know mainland Europe has gotten pretty big. I've sent equipment all over. Okay? See you next time.